in a variety of situations in an attempt to keep companies from exploiting independent contractors. The California legislature doesn't think independent contracting is fair and believes it's more important to keep people from working than to let them work independently. Between potential exploitation or probable unemployment, the California government believes that your dignity is more important than your livelihood and will happily intervene on your behalf through force of law. Say jobs are pizza, and we want to talk about how to get more good pizza and less bad pizza. Well, first, let's establish that sometimes pizza toppings are subjective. I might like anchovies, while pineapple and sausage are enjoyed by sociopaths. But that's fine. Same with jobs. Someone who prefers stability and predictability might see a freelance job as erratic or paying too little. But a freelancer might want that job because it's flexible. And there's another issue as well. Say we're talking about second-rate pizza. Is it better to have no pizza or stale pizza? Well, California has effectively said, we don't like your pizza. From now on, you have to make pizza that reaches our standards or not make pizza at all. We are banning mediocre pizza. The problem is, you haven't magically compelled all pizza to be delicious. All you've done is outlaw the stale pizza. So now instead of pineapple and sausage pizza, we don't get any pizza at all. There is less pizza to go around. The California government has effectively told freelancers, we think the pizza you like is beneath your dignity, and we have decided you should either starve or find something else to eat, but not that pizza. And again, this is assuming it's actually bad pizza and not just control freaks trying to outlaw anchovies because they don't personally like them. We fought the British for our right to eat anchovies on pizza, and we fought Antarctica to steal those anchovies. Have you ever met a polyamorous couple where one of the people's really into open relationships, but the other person's just kind of going along with it, but isn't particularly interested? That's how California views freelancer relationships. The freelancer would clearly rather get the perks and benefits of a monogamous corporate relationship, but the skeezy company holds all the cards. Also, Janet, if you're watching, I apologize. I just want to be monogamous with you now. Call me. Baby, come back. AB 5 passed in 2019 in response to big companies allegedly or potentially taking advantage of freelancers. The logic is companies would rather pay their employees less than more. In order to pay them less, they have cleverly labeled the people who work for them as freelancers so they don't have to pay for their health care or vacation. The big evil companies the California government had in mind were DoorDash, which sounds like my primary hobby in high school, but is actually a company that delivers takeout to lazy people. Uber, a ride-hailing company that combines taxicabs with smartphones. I own a car, but I use Uber periodically when I've had too much to drink, when I want to get home safely, like on St. Patrick's Day or most of 2014. And finally, Lyft, which is similar to Uber, only with a wider range of smells. AB 5 requires companies that work with independent contractors to reclassify them as employees, with associated payroll taxes, employment regulations, and sad inter-office birthday parties which punctuate workers' years with a grim reminder of their impending mortality. Specifically, AB 5 employs a three-pronged test to determine if workers are employees or contractors. The test assumes contract workers are, in fact, actual employees unless the company can prove three things. The worker is free to perform services without the direction or control of the company. The worker is performing work tasks that are outside the usual course of the company's business activities. And the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature that involves the work performed. So, for example, since Uber and Lyft are ride-hailing apps, cars are directly involved, and the state of California would presumably say its drivers are not performing a miscellaneous freelancer activity outside of the company's normal business, but are, in fact, employees. Now, Uber is saying it's not a transportation company, it's a technology company which connects drivers and passengers, but I doubt they can matlock that position through the courts. So that's it, right? The evil plutocrats who own these big businesses must now own up to their employees and pay them more, instead of buying a hover yacht or drinking expensive champagne on horseback or whatever rich people do. I don't know, Pilates in Latin, I guess. But wait, AB 5 doesn't end there. If we require Uber and Lyft to offer paid benefits to all of their contractors, stay with me here, it increases the cost of doing business. Most estimates say AB 5 makes employees, as opposed to contractors, 30% more expensive, specifically for these big companies I mentioned earlier. Unfortunately, despite our best efforts and a staggering amount of legislation, we've never been able to abolish the law of supply and demand. This tyrannical economic consensus means if we increase the cost of labor, we also reduce the supply. In other words, make workers more expensive and companies will hire fewer of them. When companies incur costs, they almost always pass those costs on to their consumers or employees. They don't take them on the chin. And while you might think, well, CEOs should just eat it. How many top hats do you need, CEO? The reality is this: the government can mandate rules, it can't mandate intentions. You can use force of law for a lot of things, but you can't pass legislation requiring someone to like people, or to want less money, or to get back with their ex-fiance because he learned his lesson about thruples, Janet. You can penalize or reward things, but you can't write laws changing people's internal motivations. Using government mandates to change people's intentions is like trying to change the weather by tweeting about it. Say you think CEOs make too much money compared to their lowest earning employees, and you want to make things more egalitarian through force of law. So you raise taxes on the company, thinking the company will start at the top by reducing the CEO's salary. Nope. They'll either reduce paychecks elsewhere or they'll pass it on to the consumer virtually every time. So then, you pass a law saying CEOs can only make 10 times more than the lowest paid employee in their company. So the company just fires all the janitors, replaces them with Roombas, and then fires all the secretaries and replaces them with phone Roombas. So then, you pass a law requiring CEOs to take a pay cut. Okay, now the CEO moves to an offshore island along with their company. Then what happens? Well, if you remember sophomore English, they hunt people for sport. So good job. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't pass laws because people would get around them. Most states have prohibited murder, for example, and while some ne'er-do-well butlers do keep slaying their masters, overall I'm in favor of anti-murder laws. Again, my point is, you can use the carrot and stick of government to alter people's actions, but you're never going to change their internal motivations. Also, what if the affected companies aren't run by greedy plutocrats in a Blade Runner spinoff? What if they're just regular people operating in a universe relentlessly tyrannized by math and economics? For example, let's say your company doesn't have a 30% profit margin, even if it pulps and liquefies the board of directors. That would mean if your cost of business jumps up by 30%, you would simply go bankrupt, in which case nobody gets a job. Well done. To avoid that, any company with a thin net profit margin would have no other option than to raise prices for consumers. Here, I'm going to show you a diagram. The good news is California is super cheap. It's not at all a state where average rent costs more than a Nebraska law degree or gasoline prices are so high, I just buy plastic jug vodka and hope my Toyota doesn't notice. Even so, if you increase the cost of something, people are going to consume less of it. That's supply and demand. When my neighborhood cigars doubled in price, I started purchasing half as many and stealing twice as much. If companies increase their prices by 30%, the ones with low net profit margins will flat go out of business, like that cigar shop that prosecuted me. Others will press on, but people will buy less of their stuff. And there's a good chance you're going to get fired anyway. If a company is looking to save costs on employees, it's going to be cheaper to fire several part-time freelancers and hire a small squadron of full-timers, or specialty Roombas. Hope you make the cut. And in fact, that's exactly what's happened.